Lately, several US-based flat earthers have promoted the Mount Meru summit. It was held last week online, and flat earthers paid a lot of money to see this. Let's look at one of the presentations from that summit. First of all, I want to thank all my patrons, members, donors, and subscribers. All of you are important for me. Thank you very much. The host for the Mount Meru summit was Jaronism and Witsit Gets It. Therefore, I have chosen to have a look at Witsit's presentations during that summit.
This is what a magnetic field looks like, and you lived in the middle of it. And if you can really grasp this, you can understand why they would hide this. It would be a very different story if people really knew where they lived. So here's the block wall of a magnet I told you about. Again, this has to exist in all magnetic fields. The globe can't even answer where this would be. Harvard will tell you they can't even explain the magnetic field or where it emanates from or what's going on at the core, exactly how it works or anything about it. This is 2022 billions of dollars. The world's universities, they can't tell you how it works. Of course, it works perfectly, as I just showed you. It works perfectly on a flat Earth. You live right through the middle of the magnetic field. It makes perfect sense in physics. It doesn't make any sense on a ball, but you know, here's a pretty cartoon, so you have to believe it.
Science have a quite good idea about the Earth's magnetic field. The fact that they don't know exactly everything don't prove that it's not a globe. If we take your brain, for instance, Witsit, scientists can't explain all in your brain, all functions in your brain. And in your case, I think it's more confusing than in an ordinary brain. The fact that the magnetic poles constantly are moving, and the fact that you have one south and one north magnetic pole. Both of these facts disprove your silly theories.
So this is where we're going to get back into what's in the center. This is an ancient Vedic text or depiction, and it shows you basically pretty accurate ether physics, ironically. Now I did a whole presentation on the ether, so I'm not going to do that again, and I encourage you to check it out. I did at Flattoberfest, and I've done a few on my channel, but hiding the ether seems to have been one of the biggest parts of the lie, because the implications are there's a metaphysical realm beyond you. Everything's interconnected. Energy comes to and fro. You have all kinds of capabilities. There's literally an energy source all around you. So why would they tell you that? I mean, of course they wouldn't tell you that, because then you wouldn't have utility bills and be dependent upon electrical grids and all this different stuff. So
Witsit believes in free energy bullshit.
Anyway, this is an ancient Vedic text. It shows you the mountain in the middle. It shows the two types of movement. You have centrifugal divergence, centripetal convergence. These are the two aspects superimposed on top of each other within a magnetic field. I apologize, it will be kind of fast. I don't want to fit it all in. But this is like the primary conjugate geometric expression of magnetism. That just means the geometry is basically the inverse of one another. It's the other side to the coin. There are two types of motions. You have a donut, you draw through the center of it. That would be like the hyperboloid inside it, and you have the toroid as the donut on the outside. And there are two types of motions within this. Now, this was known for thousands of years. How come when I'm saying it, it doesn't make any sense to you right now? And you're like, I need to rewind. I don't get it.
You nailed it, Witsit, because you don't understand. You're making things up. You think the Asian people was talking about the magnetic field. And do you have any proofs for that? Of course not. You're only making up stories. You have listened to Eric Debay's idiotic theories about Mount Meru in the middle of the North Pole and so on.
Well, that's one of the tricks. You should have learned about this when you were in second grade. It should make sense, and you should look at it in the form of geometry. And they knew about this a long time ago. So they show the two types of movements. They have the tower in the middle, and they have the turtle at the bottom. That represents time. So whenever you hear like, oh, you flat earthers think you live on the back of a turtle, Well, actually, the ancient people used the turtle to represent time. And of course, ironically, you can actually look at the back of the shell of a turtle and it matches the calendar perfectly. You can use a turtle for a calendar. That's what this represents. This is actually high level ether physics in a depiction from the Vedas, the Vedic representation many, many years ago.
No, Witsit. This is a higher level of bullshit.
Probably a coincidence. So here is a place in Thailand, and it tells you right here about Sumeru Mountain. That's where you get Mount Meru. Now this goes back in all kinds of different, ancient civilizations. So it is the name of the summit, and it seems to have great importance. And everyone's looking at the outside. What's at the outside? Let's go to the south. Blah 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 blah. Admiral Byrd. But no one wants to talk about what's in the middle. You're like, oh, you must assume probably that we know what's in the middle. We don't actually. You can't privately explore the middle either, and that should not make sense to you. Oh, we don't have the infrastructure to save you. It's not safe. You'll be intercepted by military, Russia, etc.
The North Pole is not closed in any way. If you look at Flight Radar 24, for instance, I just did it. Look at this plane. It passed quite close to the North Pole. Every day, ordinary passenger planes passes the North Pole, and they have done so for a very long time. So many people every day will see the North Pole, and they will not see a magic mountain. You can go there by yourself, buy a ticket to Greenland and take the skis to the North Pole. Many people have done that. Or if you're too lazy to do that, why not book a ticket on the next North Pole Marathon? It's a race that goes every year. Or buy a ticket on a cruise on an icebreaker. There are several of those out there that you can buy. I have several friends that have been on the North Pole. They are working and have worked on the Swedish icebreaker Oden. This ship had been to the North Pole with scientists 10 times.
That's why no, Russia's not the good guy, Ukraine's not the good guy. They're all in a club, and you weren't invited. So
Witsit is a piece of shit. Russia and Ukraine don't have a secret club. War deniers like Witsit are disgusting. Russia attacked a peaceful country without reasons and have killed, murdered civilians, children. They are bombing schools, hospitals. And I think they are killing Russians too, because they are sending poorly trained, poorly equipped soldiers to a certain death in Ukraine. But brain-dead idiots like Witsit thinks it's some kind of conspiracy between Russia and Ukraine. Get a life. Grow up.
let's get more into it. Here are some ancient depictions of the Earth with the Mount Meru in the center. You'll see that it has the center point there. And then, of course, this has the four corners and the square. So take note of the square and the circle. I encourage everyone that maybe missed it. You definitely want to check out Marty Leeds. It's crazy the way things work, synchronicities, because he just covered the circus or the circle and the square, and it fits in perfectly with the presentation that I was going to do. I don't consider that to be a coincidence. I definitely encourage you to look at it. So as you see, you have the square outside, the corners, and the circle within. The scriptures say this. Many ancient texts say this. And of course, if you've looked into ancient civilizations at all, you found out they lied to you about how that they were super primitive and they didn't know what they were doing or understand anything.
Obviously, Witsit was homeschooled by his parents that haven't attended any school at all.
Well, they had at least had international communication and transportation, and they're like there's a mummy found with cocaine from South America. There are the same architecture across the whole world.
And more lies. No one claims that it's cocaine from Colombia. They think it's a similar plant, and it's same goes for the tobacco they found. They think they have been similar plants closer to Egypt that have died out. You know, some plants disappear, die out. It don't prove any connection between Colombia and Egypt.
And they have the same story scattered out across the whole world. And this is impossible based on the narrative they told us. We can't even replicate some of the stuff they built back then to this day, which goes to show you they actually knew a lot more than you've been told. Now, of course, History Channel wants to come in with the ancient aliens and try to absorb it and tell you that aliens came and all this nonsense.
I don't watch History Channel, but I'm sure that no scientist try to explain things with aliens visiting those cultures.
Because people are starting to see through the lie, similar to how they're getting rid of evolution, because people are stopping, they really aren't following for evolution anymore. So they're going to replace it with simulation theory, where they acknowledge design, but they do not acknowledge the designer or the personable nature of the creator and how it's actually a loving force that created you. Rather, you're a robot in a game and no one cares.
It's quite clear that this fool is mixing Christian beliefs with ancient beliefs, with homemade stuff like Eric the Bay's nonsense. It sounds like a homemade flat earth religion.
So here are some more ancient depictions where you always have the central point being depicted as something in and of itself. If you look in the middle there, you'll see like the black hole. We'll get into that in a second. Now there's a hole in most of these depictions, as there is a mountain and or a tree in the center of almost all these ancient depictions. And like I said, these people knew a lot more than you may think that they do. They could accurately denote physics, which still cannot be done today by a majority of the academic world, as they are particle physicists. And just ignore the fact that they literally can't explain most of the phenomena. That would be a whole other presentation as well. So here's another ancient depiction where you have the mountain in the middle.
There are no mountain, there are no tree, there are no big hole at the North Pole. The North Pole is in the middle of a sea covered with ice. And you can see it for yourself if you take a flight that passes the North Pole.
The story goes, of course, there is a magnetic mountain in the center called Mount Meru, and that it hovers over the water, and that there is waters falling down into this like vortex or portal type of whirlwind in the water, and that it breaks off into rivers with continents around it. And many ancient civilizations said this. So let's see if it makes any sense. Here's some more depictions throughout the world with the mountain in the middle. You got more of the mountain in the middle here. You got it's referring to it as Asgard.
And now he mixes in Nordic mythology, the Asa belief, the belief that the Vikings believed in. And Asgard was the paradise, and yes, they said it was in the middle of the world, but they don't talk about a mountain, about a tree. Instead, it's a city with a big castle.
It's all over the world. This is actually from Manly P. Hall, Secret Teachings of All Ages. He was some argue 33rd degree Mason. You actually can't tell for sure when someone's 33rd. You have to be elected and voted in for that. Rarely is it publicly announced that they're 33rd, but at the least 32nd degree Mason. He has all kinds of speeches and presentations, and his book has the mountain in the middle with the tree coming out of it. Now this is a big piece of it. Now the mountain's there, and there's also the depiction of a tree going up. There's a bunch of arguments as to whether or not this is physically real or symbolic, or is this talking about you have two magnetic magnets that would create basically a vortex in the middle that would go up, and it's just talking about that. I think that there is literally something there. Something has to sustain the magnetic field, and if even a bit of this is true, you can imagine why looking at the south a lot maybe is the deception. Maybe that's the trick, right? So anyway, this Mason maybe knew something, but just so you guys know, just because someone's a Mason or they've been in the Mason Brotherhood, they don't know all the secrets of the world. They just get access to libraries. Most of them don't even take advantage of it, and you don't even get a lot of the answers till you're 33rd. And again, you have to be voted in to get to the 33rd degree. So it's kind of like, are all the teachers in on the lie about the Earth? No. Same thing with Masons. Most of them don't know anything. Okay, so you have more ancient depictions of this mountain or tower in the middle of the Earth. Now, why did all these people, this is like Sumeria in the middle, the white picture in the middle. Why did all these ancient civilizations claim that there was something in the middle? And of course, this looks very close to like what a footstool would look like. The scriptures do in fact say that the Creator uses the earth as a footstool. And so it's very interesting.
This is the whole speech that are published from Witsit's speech on the Mount Meru summit last weekend. And as you all can see, it's all a bunch of rubbish and some disgusting parts, like the conspiracy between Russia and Ukraine. I think that Witsit is one of the most stupid flat earthers out there, and it's very hard competition on that title, but I think he is one of the most stupid of them. Before I finish this video, I will take the opportunity to thank you all that helping Ukraine. At the moment, I'm very focused on drones to Ukraine, and you who visit my live stream yesterday, you heard what the troops in Ukraine that I have contact with wanted more. They need big power banks so they can charge the drones out in the field. Okay, that was all for this time. I hope you liked the video. Next week or the next 10 days I will be out at sea. I have prepared 2 videos that will be published during next week. See you soon. Bye all.